Welcome back to Save for More. I'm super pumped to have you guys here as we talk about Rocky 3. We're doing every lesson in every Rocky film, diving deep, trying to get all the philosophical gems out of there. So, we are on Rocky 3. If you haven't seen the film, as always, major spoilers. Watch the films, then watch these. Um, so, Rocky 3 is the Rocky film that I return to probably most often. Um, Not because it's particularly my favorite of the Rockies, but because the messages in it and sort of the theme and the vibe of it, the Eye of the Tiger message is one that's most pertinent to me most often. I use it to get me pumped up for school, right? When I'm not feeling my um, ideal self when it comes to my academics, when I'm slacking, when I'm dogging it and I know it, that's the movie that helps me get back into it. A lot of great messages in this one, so let's just jump right into it. In that opening montage, right? You see Paulie, and you can watch his face. He just looks like pissed. You know what I mean? He's rolling his eyes. He's annoyed at the success of Rocky. He's just bemoaning the success of Rocky. And this is a important lesson about taking stock and taking like a notice in two variables very important to friendship. This is a lesson that Dr. Jordan Peterson stresses. He said a good friend will be you. There are two telling factors of a good friend. One is that you can give them good news and they'll celebrate with you. And number two is you can give them bad news and they will sort of mourn with you and sit with you and let you have that. They won't do the whole, well, my life's worse than yours, or if you're having success, they won't be Polly and secretly rooting for your demise and your downfall. If they are, well, then you don't have a true friend, and that might be a negative person in your life that you might want to take might want to take that into consideration. My brain seems a little fried. I've been working on midterms and work for my boss all day. It's been a crazy day, but I'm happy to be sitting down here talking Rocky with you guys. So that's the first lesson. Next is I think Clubber. Now there's a bunch of ways we can think about Clubber, and I might do other videos in the future talking about him as different metaphors. But I'm going to go with this sort of way to look at him. Clubber is a cautionary tale on not getting complacent with life because I see Clubber as life's crushers, right? Those horrible things, the death of a father figure. I don't think it's any coincidence that Mickey's death is in this film interspliced with Clubber Lang and Rocky getting beat by Clubber. I think that he represents these ginormous, you know, pile drives to the face that life give us sometimes. So I put up an Instagram TV or whatever it's called, the long Instagram videos last week about the bull and the matador. There's this quote that I just love. It says, "Sometimes in life you are the bull, other times you are the matador." And I think this message sort of is congruent with that. I think that Rocky is the bull in the beginning of this film, right? He is just eye the tiger, top of the world. He's firing on all cylinders. He feels great. Life couldn't be better. But life's crushers do come around the corner and punch you in the face and throw you down, and then you're the matador again. And you're, you know, struggling and fleeing and fighting away from the horns of life, as I said it in the video. Because the bulls have the horns and they're about to stab you to death with their horns, and that's how these life crushers go. And I think the best way to look at the life crushers, the horns, is the four existential givens as outlined by Irvin Yalom. You know what I mean? Death, isolation, meaninglessness, and freedom. This one is death that we see in this film is the crusher, but it's very important to remember when you are the bull, when you are Rocky, and you do have the eye of the tiger. Don't get complacent. Don't get cocky or arrogant, and don't think that life isn't gearing up to kick you in the nutbag, because it is and it will. Um, but that's okay because we can equally remember when we are down in the dirt and we are getting our faces crumbled in by life. We can remember, oh, I will be the bull again. I will come back from this. As dark as this tunnel might be, there always is that light. It's that. It's remembering that. But I do think it's important to remember both ways. When we're in the tunnel, it's dark. Remember, there's light, and when you're in the light, remember another tunnel's coming around. Don't fool yourself or confuse yourself. Think that life is something that it isn't. So there you go. Let's see what's next. Okay, I like this one. I really don't know what's going on with the lighting here. I'm sorry, but it looks like I'm very silhouetted out for some reason. But anyway, Paulie says things like, "Give me, Paulie, your best" to the guys at the bar he's at. He says, "I've been coming here for 8 years." And then he says this one, "Adrian doesn't come around." He says, "What did you ever do for Paulie? You give me a job? No, you gave me this stupid X-Lax watch." And he says, "Who fixed you up with your first girl?" He says, "Did you ask me to move in?" So it's what is this? It's just a bunch of him saying like, "Oh, you owe me this, you owe me that, give me this, give me that. Why don't you give me this? I'm entitled. Give me this, I'm entitled." And I love Rocky's response to Paulie here. He says, "Nobody owes nobody nothing. You owe yourself." And I never really like saw that theme so strongly as I did in this rewatch. You owe it to yourself is kind of a big recurring theme in Rocky 3, as we'll see later. Um, but it is important, and just the fact of Paulie, like I said in the first film's deep dive, he's the shadow Rocky. He's the antithesis of Rocky. He's that cautionary tale again of don't be that guy. We all know that guy who goes to the bar just to be, you know, uh, wallowing in his own misery. He wants to feel. Um, you know those people, the Paulies of the world, who they're just feeling like the world's keeping them down, and that they've been wronged, and everybody owes them something, and they're entitled. We aren't entitled. Like, life is very unfair, and if you're just going to play the victim, I mean, you can, and sure, but that's no life. I think that's a forfeiting of your life, and it's just a cheap way out. I talked about this a little bit in my victimhood video, but let me go off on a little tangent here. So life is not fair, right? I was born with this congenital heart defect. Again, with the lighting, I don't know if you'll see this, but I got a big old scar from the two open heart surgeries just last year. If you've been following for any time, you know that everything almost came crashing down again. I had a clot in my heart, lungs, and leg. But these congenital heart defects, and this less than 1% chance of survival, none of that was fair. None of that's normal. Some people are born, healthy, strong, jacked, freaking 8 feet tall. That's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Like, they're 6'5", muscular, and I was born gonna die. But I don't like that victim card. I'm not a survivor. I'm not you know, I don't care to even be a survivor or a friggin' guy with a heart condition. Doesn't matter. That's just something that is a part of my past and my history and what happened, but it doesn't define me at all. I don't want it to define me at all. I don't want to hang my hat on it or anything like that. And as I said in the victimhood video, it is very easy. There's that line from Bleed for This, another great boxing film. He says, "Yeah, I do know how to give up, Kevin. I know exactly how to give up, and what terrifies me is that it's easy." And that's true. When we fall into the Pauliness, right? Of just blaming the world and saying, feeling entitled, saying that everyone's keeping us down. It's easy to just turn the world into the enemy and you, the victim. And then nothing's your fault and everything can just be, you know, thrown away to that. Just, "Oh, I've been wronged. I've been wronged." And you can play the victim your whole life. But like I said, I think it's just a forfeiting of yourself. And that's why I love the theme of you owe yourself. You find your worth. You see that you are somebody who's worthy of having more, and you go and get that, not because of any resentment, or you want to say, "Look at what I've done," or I want to show them. At all that, you do it because you love yourself and you know yourself, and you know that you deserve more than you're getting, so you go out and do that. You go out and get that, and you do it for you. And Paulie says flat out, "You've been keeping me down." Rocky says it perfectly. I can't say it any better. Can't expound on it. He just says, you know, "You're just a jealous, lazy bum." Sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's true. Next great Paulie lesson is he's saying to hell with this, to hell with that, to hell with this guy, to hell with you. Rocky says, maybe it's to hell with you. And I love that little lesson there. If you're always hearing someone complain, or if you're always complaining, look at the common denominator. If everything sucks all of the time, you might want to check your attitude. This brings us to the next message: controlling that attitude and the mindset, stoicism. So the Clubber Lang scene, right? The hey woman, you want a real man? Come to my apartment later. He is calling out Adrian, obviously to piss Rocky off, just like Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo in real life. Fighters do this sometimes, get their opponent pissed. Art of War, Miyamoto Musashi showing up super late to fights, so that people are like, oh, what the hell? Because you throw your game plan out. So we're not all fighters, right? We're not all Rocky. We're not all taking on people for the heavyweight championship. But this is a very pertinent lesson, I think, in remember that if someone's really trying to make you mad, they're saying that, hey, woman, you want to come? And they're saying things that you know it's just, hey, remember that they're saying that for a particular reason to get that exact response out of you. Don't let them turn you into a button to push. Control your emotions, and as the Stoics say, if you choose not to be harmed, you have not been harmed. Nobody can make you feel anything. So next time someone's being a real douche, try it. Just try to say, I'm not a button. You're not going to press me. I'm fine. You can say what you want. All right. I already said this. He's not just another fighter. He'll kill you to death. He's the big one, like the death of a father figure. I think that Clubber really does represent this. Life's just existential dreads, you know? Okay. Yeah, I already said all of this. It's no coincidence with the Mickey dying. Um, so, you ain't been hungry since you won the belt. A lesson on going through the motions, checking the boxes, and fooling yourself. I fall into this one big time. This is a struggle that I have a lot, and this is something that plays into why I come back to Rocky 3 so very often. So, Rocky is having this conversation with Mickey, right? He's saying, well, you've been carrying me. It's like, no, I wasn't carrying you necessarily, but they've been handpicked, these fighters. And I do this with my daily tasks. Like, if you know me, follow the channels for a little bit, you'll know that I like to keep these types of things here, these little notebooks, and I keep check mark lists every day. You know, work out, do this schoolwork and that assignment, read this chapter, um, whatever. I just leave it on this list, and so that's helpful for me to understand when I have and have not done my obligations. But it's also easy for me to trick myself and fall into this momentum game of saying, you know, do this, do this, do this, and then either doing them so half-assed, but being like, well, technically did it, checking it off, and then I make myself feel like I'm doing more than I actually have been doing. Or, you know, you can get into this game of just, I think, you know, I forget the other point, but just it's very important that you make sure that you aren't just going on autopilot through life for many reasons. But when we do get set up in something like school or work and we feel comfortable, if we start getting too comfortable, we get complacent, and that's not how you continue to move up, and that's not how you continue to get better. That's just how you make it from day to day. And that's without passion, that's without um, without the real, soul of the person involved. That is just checking boxes in a very detached and unfulfilled manner. So I don't like that. And the cautionary tale is just make sure you're not either fooling yourself into thinking that you're doing more work than you are, and don't just get caught up in checking boxes and going day by day. Make sure your passion is still in there, and if you need to rest, rest. You know, that's one thing, but we need to find the eye of the tiger at some point, come back in full force. Don't just cycle through the motions. All right. Okay, so the scene where Rocky is training for the first fight with Clubber, and it's just, you know, the big spectacle. They're selling Rocky punching bags, girls are asking him for kisses. He's signing stuff. Stay humble. Always stay humble and forget aesthetics. Just do the work. Do the work because someone is. I love when they cut back to Clubber and he's going hard. This this sort of dance between aesthetics and work is interesting to me, and it's a conversation I have a lot with my friend Dom, the writer. I write as well, but you know, I consider him to be the actual like writer. And we have these conversations about writing and being writers. And for a long time, himself and I got caught up in the aesthetic of being a writer, and I think a lot of people do. R.C. Walden, I believe, has a great video on this. I don't remember what it's called, but essentially, everyone says like not everyone, but everyone who is a writer says, I'm a writer. But most of them, when you ask them, oh, what have you written lately? What are you writing? Oh, I'm percolating with some ideas, or I'm in the gathering stages. You're going to hear a lot of that. But when it comes to physical words on a page, how many pages have you gotten through this month? Like how many short stories? How far into your novel? When you're talking about legit work put in, it falls apart. They'll be like, oh yeah, well, I'm still like percolate. And that's because they're just so caught up with the idea and the aesthetic and the sort of the feeling of being a writer rather than actually writing. And this is not just for writers. This is academics, right? In school, I can get sort of caught up in being, the student, and I study and I learn, and I'm really into school. But meanwhile, I'm that guy going through the motions, and I'm checking boxes, and I'm just focused on getting assignments put in, and I'm just not really learning at all, and I'm not really absorbing it, and I'm not really under the surface doing what I'm supposed to. I'm just kind of aesthetically being like, yeah, I'm good at school. Look how quick I got that assignment done. Yeah. Did you just get it done though really fast? Because that's pointless. Um, so yeah, don't fool yourself and don't fall into the aesthetic game. You want to work out, you don't need to take 8 pictures of yourself working out to put on Instagram. Just have the workout. We we as a generation do tend to stop at the perceived, don't we? We have this we have this bad plague in our society right now of the I can't think of the word, but the surface level, We are very much so an aesthetic group of people, and sometimes that is damaging. It's very damaging when it comes to uh, the building of our ideal selves. We don't want to stop at the perceived ideal self. When someone says, "Oh, Luke's sick," and then that's all I'm trying to maintain is like, "Oh, you saying I'm sick? Oh, you're saying I'm sick? Oh, you're saying I'm sick," because internally I'm rotting. Internally, there's nothing inside. Internally, I'm not. I'm not getting better. So that's important. Okay, you aren't entitled to your best self. Don't know what that last thing says. Great. Oh, I see what it says now. Okay, so you aren't entitled to your best self, nor are you entitled to keeping your best self. So I always say that here was saved for more. There's the best version of you in there somewhere, and you should go after that. but you're not entitled to it at all. It is a fight, and you're going to have to make that struggle every single day up that mountain like Sisyphus. But even if you do attain greatness and you get to the top of the mountain, so to speak, you're not entitled to keeping that. Again, I can relate this to my personal academic journey. I was a horrible student at the bottom, and I had this semester where everything sort of turned around for me, and I started ramping up that hill, and I was getting A's. That's when I got that 98 in a statistics class, even though I failed all math classes previously in my life, and I was getting offered to be in these different honor societies and these academic programs, and I was presenting in Portland, and I was under review for publication. So I was going up this mountain, and I was like, yes, I'm a student who's really good at school. But then I sat there at the top, and I did the problem I was just talking about, the aesthetic, and I was just, I've got a journal under review for publication. Oh, nice. What are you working on now? I don't know if you heard me. Got a journal under review for publication. Yeah, I know. Wasn't that like a couple months ago? What are you doing these days? Nothing. You know what I mean? Just absolutely nothing. And just kind of hanging my hat on this one accomplishment, and being like, oh man, I'm a good student now. And you forget what got you to the dance. You forget what got you up the mountain. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep fighting. You have to keep going up that mountain, or you will slide back down. All right. Oof. When Mickey says, after all these years, you don't know what to do, you should be ashamed of yourself. Now go out there and do it. This one is that I think that we deep down know. We deep down somewhere in us know what we want to do, what we should do, and even how to go about doing it. But we don't, out of fear, out of, uh, not one, a fear of failure, an insecurity in ourselves, whatever it may be. And we're always looking for other people to validate us. We're looking for the Mickeys. We're looking to our friends. Hey, does this sound right to you? Hey, what's your opinion on this? Hey, can I do this? You're always asking permission, trying to get permission. But the internal father that I always talk about. There's an internal father within you. You know exactly what you should be doing. You know the course. You know the terrain. You know what you should do. Stop being so afraid. Stop being so afraid. Stop looking for permission. Go out and do it. All right. We often know what to, yeah, I just said that. Thanks. Thanks. But yeah, you have a lack of self confidence. And this lack of self confidence will prove to be a huge theme in the film as well, right? That is kind of the whole message. And that is the eye of the tiger. It's a lack of confidence. He doesn't believe in himself. I'm afraid. When he screams, I'm afraid in that fight with Adrian. All right. The death of the father, the steersman, the loss of the soul. That is what happens to Rocky once Mickey is gone. Now it's you versus you. This is the statue scene, right? So when those people do fall away, when you're no longer leaning on your parents, when you no longer are just gonna ask for validation from your friends or ask for permission from such and such professor, whatever, when you start to take your life into your own hands, that's a you versus you battle, because you realize that you are that steersman, that there is that internal father, and that your soul is your fight. And that's terrifying. That's terrifying, but it's something that we have to do. We have to step away from our parents, metaphorically, at some point. We have to go out and adventure the hero's journey. You must travel into the unknown, and that is that fight. And you're going to find that the biggest enemy, the toughest opponent in the ring and outside, is you. Unrelated, but one of my favorite quotes is Customato. He says, I hate to see a fighter not beaten by another man, but beaten by himself. So, anyway, again, back to the for yourself thing and do it for you. Make it right for yourself, or you'll be sorry you didn't. Apollo says this to Rocky in Mickey's gym, talking about Clubber and the loss. Because Apollo knows. He knows it's going to gnaw and gnaw at the back of Rocky's head. He knows it's not going anywhere. He knows what it feels like to have unanswered questions plague your mind and your soul and your heart and how that weighs on a man or woman. You can't go to the grave. You can't live your life with these questions. And if you do, that's where you get the quiet desperation. That's where you get the people who are just the Paulies and they're pissed off all the time. That's where you get the people who can't stand to be in their own flesh because they're living a lie, and you won't be able to stand that silence. You won't. So whatever kind of aching question you have, get an answer, even if it's getting pummeled to bits by Clubber Lang metaphorically, and you fail miserably. You must go out and attempt to answer these questions. You must not live in fear, and you must not live in the silence of the unknown, because that is much more terrifying than the failure that you can face. It's just much worse to sit here and say that you never tried than to go out and fail. It is. It is. All right. So go back to the beginning as far as what Apollo says. We got to go back to the start when we were the grinders and they go to his old gym and everybody's just got the eye of the tiger flaming, baby. This is to me reminds me of remembering your why, going back to that intrinsic motivation. The man who has a strong why can withstand any how. Remember why you started. Remember what you're doing at this, like on this hill, climbing up this road. What am I doing here? Remind yourself. That helps you. Another thing is get back to the basics. Remember what got you to the dance. Studying 30 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day, something like that, nice little routine, whatever it was. Don't try to get fancy. Don't try to stray away. And if you forget your way, just go back to the basics. Always go back to the basics. Always return to the jab, right? Get your mind on the bottom of the mountain. Yeah. So when you're looking at that imagery of, the hungry lion coming up the mountain and the lazy, happy one up at the top, get yourself mentally, however you have to do that, get yourself mentally at the bottom of that hill. To me, this is sort of like Jordan Peterson's personal hell that you're running from. Sometimes it's not cutting it to rely on your personal heavens, like I want this, these are my goals. Sometimes you gotta light that fire under you a little bit and say, oh yeah, if I don't do such and such, I'm gonna have this hell to face and this consequence, and my life will look like this. And now you're gonna start climbing and you're gonna start going a lot faster. So these three things about getting your mind back to that beginning, back to the bottom of that mountain, those are important. Uh, Oh, Apollo says, do listen to it, Rocky. When Paulie's like, hearing them say on the news a bunch of negative things about Rocky, he says, don't listen to it. And Apollo says, do listen to it. So I think that's important to sometimes fuel your fight and remember that the battle, um, it's still make that fight real, make it all real, listen to it and bring it all in as kerosene, make that fire burn a little bit brighter and hotter and make you go up that hill a little bit more. So, whatever kind of negative feedback people want to say and spit at you, and when people are dicks or people doubt you, or even yourself, you start to doubt yourself, use it as fuel and say, yeah, you're going to see. You're going to see. All right. You aren't what you have been. This is important. Change is possible. And I think that people do not remember this enough. I don't think they believe this enough in themselves. Again, it goes back to that self confidence and the self doubt issue. Just because you have done something a certain way or have been a certain thing your whole life doesn't mean that you have to continue that way. And people limit themselves by not believing that. People with the stories they tell themselves, the narratives they hold on to, they reinforce and they create their life. I talked about this on my Instagram. Again, that was my academic switch. It wasn't a different brain being switched into my head. It was me changing that internal dialogue of, oh, you're an idiot, you're really bad at school, you're dumb. We only go as far as we let ourselves. It's like that romance movie. I can't remember what it can't remember what it's called, but that quote about we only accept the love we think we deserve. Same goes with our life. We only take what we think we're worth. And people limit themselves by saying like I'm this, I'm this. Stop defining yourself as this. You've been that. You've done that. It's not you. You are not that, and you can change. Um, Paulie's they'll try to say he's a brawler, not a boxer, and then Apollo says keep telling him that, and he'll be nothing. Now, people will try to tell you, the world will try to tell you, you will try to tell you what you are. Forget that. Listen to it, like Paulie said. Yeah, listen, or Apollo said, definitely listen to it, bring it in, say sure. But you're gonna see, no, I'm not. Rocky went from the brawling style, learned how to dance and move, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He learned that's more Apollo style. Change is possible. You've seen dramatic weight loss journeys. You've seen people quit smoking. You've seen people get off heroin. Change is possible in any sense. I'm not a reader. You are now. You read. Things change. Okay. And starting again, when you do this, when you say, okay, I know I've been this, but I'm going to do this now. Like for me, their reading metaphor was a summer, maybe 2 summers ago at this point. Um, like I hadn't read fiction ever, because again, it played into that me being, I thought I was an idiot. And I read nonfictions in the years a little bit prior to this because of school and whatnot. But I never let myself read fiction because I just didn't think I could do it. I was like, I can't read for entertainment. I'm an idiot. I don't read. I'm not a reader. I told myself that all the time. You're not a reader. I'm just not a reader. I can't read. So anytime a book's presented to me, it's not like, oh, let me give that a shot. It's like, oh, I'm not a reader. So I push it away. But once I started reading, oh, well, I'm a reader now and I read. So um, but when you are starting that, it breaks your confidence because you're new. You're new and you're not going to be good at it. You start boxing for the first time, you're going to suck. You start anything for for the first couple times, you're going to suck. For a long time, you're going to suck. You're going to fail worse and worse and worse, worse and worse each day, though. You're going to get better. You're going to climb slowly but surely. But it's important to remember as you're making this switch, one of those first blockades, the first sort of mountain that you're going to have to overcome is this mountain of the adjustment period. The, you're already telling yourself, I can't do this. I'm this. But once you say, no, just give it a shot, and you start to pound through it, you're going to hit the wall and go, ooh, that didn't budge at all. Well, no, not yet. Keep doing it though. Keep going, and the wall will break. You will get through, and you will be better. So don't get discouraged. Just remember that it hurts, but it'll come. It'll come. It takes time. Apollo says that as well. It'll come. It'll come. Just takes time, baby. Just takes time. Ooh, I love this one. This is like one of those mottos to live by, right? There is no tomorrow. When Apollo says that to Rocky, game over. That's the best. It's the one that Rocky looks in the mirror. He hears it echoing. There is no tomorrow. It reminds me of the Stoic quote, you could leave this world at any time. Let that determine what you do, think, and say. I'm huge on this. It might be because of my heart surgeries predisposed to this idea, but living close to death, I think, is the best way to live. I think that the whole carpe diem thing, seize the day, becomes a lot easier when you remember and you hold close to the thought that you can die, and you can die tonight. You can die tomorrow morning. You can die in your sleep. You don't know when you're going to die. You don't know when you're going to leave. And that doesn't have to be a morbid thought. It doesn't have to be a morbid thought at all. It can be a thought that fuels you. It can be a thought that makes you realize how precious now is. It could be a thought that pushes you up that mountain, right? It could be a thought that says life's too short to listen to what this guy says and get pissed. It's a thought that can say, you know what, I'm just at least going to try. And if I fail, we're all dying anyway. We're going to all be dust. Why would I care what that guy says? It's a thought that can really change your perspective in a lot of ways. So there is no tomorrow. Remember that. Remember that. Time has to move on. Time has to move on. No matter what you think, no matter what you say, no matter what you believe, time pushes on. So don't wait too long. I always say this, the graveyard speech, I'm going to give it again. Whatever you have inside of you, don't let it get trapped in a graveyard. You look out and see the headstones. Underneath them, trapped with those bodies, a million book ideas, a million movie ideas, a million business ideas, the next Apple, forgotten and lost because the individual did not find that courage to say, you know what, I'm just going to try. Who knows what they would have been? Don't ask yourself that. Find out. Okay. It's hard to admit when you're scared. Rocky does take a long time to admit that. It does take a long time to say that we're scared. It's hard to face the dark, dark corners of our minds. But awareness is the first step. Awareness is the first step. You may not really know how to even tackle or move through or understand the feelings that you're having, but just to be honest enough and be brave enough to look at the feelings that you're having and say, look, I don't feel right. I feel this, right? For Rocky, I'm afraid. He doesn't have all the answers, He doesn't have all the answers to Adrian's questions. He doesn't know. He just knows that he's scared. And that's important. Awareness is always the first step. You know, we can't just cure our depression by realizing we're going to be depressed. We're still going to feel it. It's still going to be the same. But just that awareness to know that, you know, just like the bull and the matador thing, this is how this goes. You need to have awareness that these dark corners exist. If you just turn your back to the dark corners of your mind, if you just turn your back to the pain in your heart, then it just festers and it boils over and it comes out in other ways. It's going to be the displacement that, you know, my boss yells at me, so I go yell at my kid or something. Like, it will come out. It'll find a way to leak into your life. And so don't let that happen. Be brave enough to find it, look at it in the face and say, hey, I might not have all the answers, but me and you are going to talk and we're gonna look at each other and we're going to figure this out. And I think this is just a couple of nice little quotes here. Um, Nothing is real unless you believe in who you are. Great Rocky quote. Um, and then this is kind of what I was saying earlier, bring it all back with Adrian's quote and wanting to hear. She says, if you lose, okay, you lose, but at least you lose with no excuses. You lose with no fear. So I guess to wrap it all up and to say the final piece, go out there into the battlefield of whatever it is that you want to do, strapped with your little idea and your newfound courage. Start heading up that hill, because if you fail, you fall and break your neck on the way down. At least you know you tried. At least you knew you fought. At least you had no excuses and no fear at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, it's the end of the day. There is no tomorrow. We're all going to be dust. We're all going to be gravestones, So don't let yourself become trapped within the prison of fear. Get out there, find the eye of the tiger, and I'll see you guys for part 4, Rocky 4. And as always, follow me on Instagram, saved_for_more. If you want coached in boxing or mental health, sex advice, whatever you want. I love doing that for people. You can check out the website, saved number 4 more.com. I'll see you guys in the next one.